Hello, welcome to today's edition of Pegasus Test. On today's edition, we're going to cover the Sionyx Aurora night vision camera. Now, the Sionyx camera here, or excuse me, the Aurora camera by Sionyx, is digital night vision. The nice thing about this, you can take it wherever you go with it because it's not ITAR controlled. So that's a nice plus. It's using digital technology to give you a night vision effect. And it's hard to compare with, say, Generation 2, Generation 3, because it's not a direct lineage. What I can say is it's probably a Generation 1 device. This is an indication where the technology is going to go. Now in this video, we're going to show how we use the camera under different lighting conditions compared to a white phosphorus PVS-14. We start out doing it in full moon, which is the best lighting conditions. We had full moon, no clouds in the sky, nice bright night. Heck, you almost didn't need night vision to be out moving around the woods. And we compared that to a PVS-14 and got great results. The camera is color, so you're not seeing a monochromatic image like you do with a traditional night vision device. However, the colors are offset, i.e. the greens are not greens, the oranges are not oranges, the blacks are not black. But it's still very usable. And where this comes into play is its cost point. This is an $800 camera. That's what I paid for it. I've looked online. There's slightly different models. They all vary in price a little bit. If you don't mind having one that's pure white and very few features, you can get down to the $300–400 range. If you want a few more features, you go up to almost bumping $1,000. Compared to that, to with a Generation 3 PVS-14 device, and you're somewhere in the $3,000 to $4,000 range. So obviously you can get a lot of these cameras for the price of a PVS-14. The question is, are they the same? And the answer straight up is no, they are not. On a fully moonlit night, they work very well. In some respects, almost have a slight advantage over the PVS-14s. However, when you get into positions where you got go from having a full moon to half a moon, or quarter moon technically, they start having about the limitations that you start to run into with Gen 2 devices, where they're amplifying the lights there, but it's not doing much to help you, and it's not really that much better than the naked eye. You get into a situation of no moon or no illumination. Even Gen 3 performance is pretty degraded because it needs light to amplify, and if the light's just not there, there's nothing for it to amplify. However, this reaches the point of being practically useless. It does have certain things that are nice, because compared to a PVS-14, it's basically the same size and roughly the same weight, and this has the advantage of having a built-in camera. And if you're using the camera feature, obviously you're going to increase the taxing of your battery, which is going to use up your battery life faster, but that's the price you pay. So would I recommend anybody getting one of these? Yeah, there's some uses of it.
Alright, we're using the Sionyx Aurora digital night vision camera in 720p. As you can see here, I'm walking on a path from my local park at night. And we're on a full moon night, no overhead obscurance to block said moonlight, so these are ideal night vision conditions. And yes, it's a little herky-jerky here, but that's just because I'm walking down a path and the image is not stabilized, but you get the same view through night vision when you're using it, so no difference there. As you can see, there's pretty good clarity here, and it does pick up differences in color. Are these what you see with your naked eye? No. With my naked eye, when I look out, I'm seeing a more monochromatic image, and I'm able to see farther into the woods. Alright, this is Gen 3 white phosphor night vision. We have a full moon, practically no overhead cloud obscurance tonight, and this is about optimal night vision conditions. And as you can see, it is just like day. Now, in all fairness, naked eye right now, you can see pretty far. I'm walking down the path here in a local park. Truth of the matter is, though, if I was moving through these woods in a tactical formation, I'd still probably have almost a 5-meter spread between everybody, because the vision's that good. Now, in comparison, Gen 3 to the Sionyx digital night vision, you can clearly see Gen 3 has the advantage. The Sionyx at best is Gen 2 capability. Gen 3 definitely gives you more
capability by far.
One of the cool things about the Sionyx Aurora camera, at night you can read with it. I am standing at a sign in my local park, and yeah, I'm an arm's length away from it, and I can clearly read everything in the sign, as you can see here. Now, as I've said before, we're on a fully moonlit night, no overhead cloud cover, so these are optimal night vision conditions, but still, it does show off the capabilities of the camera.
Now, just like the Sionyx, a little over an arm's length away from this historical marker here, and you know, you can see it just as clearly as you can see with the Sionyx, perhaps even better, I would say.
Alright, now we've got the Sionyx Aurora camera out where we have a 3/4 moon. However, there is very dense cloud cover, so the light is very obscured and diffused. Now with your natural eye, yeah, you can see enough to navigate, especially here on the path that I'm on. I can see it fairly well enough with the naked eye to stay on the path. However, you can see there is a degraded performance now in the Sionyx camera. Now, let's be fair to this camera. When you have regular night vision under these conditions, you get some degraded performance too. Full moon, no cloud cover is optimal night vision conditions. Now we're testing the camera in some less than optimal conditions so you can get to see what capabilities this camera has.
Alright, now as you can see here, the Gen 3 has some really good performance here. The diffused light does not affect it nearly as much as it affected the digital night vision. So Gen 3 here now is clearly ahead of the Sionyx camera.
Okay, now the Sionyx in 3/4 illumination, but completely obscured by heavy cloud cover. Here's the degradation in what you can see. Now here's a sign that we used to be able to read in a full moonlit night with no cover. Now very difficult to nearly impossible to read with the Sionyx.
Okay, here is the PVS 14. We have 3/4 moonlight obscured by heavy cloud cover, and you still have the ability to read this sign.
Alright, now we're on a quarter moon with partly cloudy skies, good view of the stars, and this is pretty much the view you get with the Sionyx. Here I am looking down the path I'm walking in the park. As I pan around, you can see the trees and the woods, and not getting the greatest performance. Now, I will say in comparison it's doing better than the naked eye, but here is where probably we've reached the camera's upper limits of its ability here. Here we are again with a half moon. We have moved out from under tree cover, and more starlight's getting through the treetops as we're in an open area, and the camera has improved dramatically.
Alright, here we are going down the path. Quarter moon night. Oh, starry skies, partly cloudy, but plenty of light coming down here. So the PVS 14 is picking up good amount. Your vision is dramatically improved over your naked eye and over the Aurora. As you look around, you can clearly navigate through these woods.
Now as we focus in here on the sign, this is pretty hard to read through the camera. It had good performance when we had a full moon, but now here under these half moon conditions, not nearly as good.
Alright, here taking the reading test. You can still somewhat read, but the capabilities are definitely diminished over the full moon night.
Okay, here we are on a no moon night, zero illumination from the moon. We've got the Sionyx Aurora camera here, and as you can see as I'm walking down the path, well, really honestly you can't see shit. This is where the Sionyx is really out of its depth. Now, to be fair, your earlier night vision doesn't do so well in this either. Gen 2 is going to have just as many problems.
Alright, we got the PVS 14 white phosphor Gen 3. We are on a moonless night. We do have no cloud cover, so there is pretty good overhead illumination from the stars. And as you can see here, you have the ability to navigate through the woods and see where you're going.
This picture is obviously much better than the stuff I was getting out of the Aurora. Okay, so here's the sign we've been reading. It's a 3/4 moon, and it's a clear night. Stars are easy to see, so we do have good starlight illumination. The sign, you can't read it with the Sionyx Aurora camera here. There's just not enough light coming into the digital processor. You bring out an IR illuminator, and it initially washes out, and then just the main beam does. But as you move it off to the side, you do get something that is readable. Alright, here we are reading the sign with the PVS-14 Gen 3 white phosphors on a moonless night, no cloud cover, and the sign is readable. If we use the IR illuminator built in, lit up perfectly, you can totally read this without any issue.
So now you've seen the comparisons between the Sionyx Aurora camera and the PVS-14 white phosphor. So you can note the strengths and differences. I don't believe this digital technology has matured to the point where it's going to give you the versatility of a standard PVS-14. However, I think that day is coming, and I think it's coming very soon. Now you've seen the videos I've taken different moon phases in comparison to PVS-14. Does this have a use? Yes, we're seeing the first generation of a new technology coming out, and I believe this will be the future. It's got some generations to go, but I don't think it's going to take us very long technologically to get to the point where this bypasses the PVS-14. The utility of having the camera being built in is hard to beat. If they're already doing this at the price point of $800, when it does get to the point it's PVS-14 comparable, it's basically going to be at a much less price point, probably half the price at a minimum. So this is an idea, this is something to keep your eye on. Does this have use? Yes, absolutely it does. I have used it for filming at several semesters of the One Shepherd Leadership Institute, and it's performed well. In the morning when there's PT being done, as you can see in the following clips, it turns night into day practically. This is before morning nautical twilight. This sky's starting to lighten, but it's still dark. You still need to use a flashlight to go around if you want to see what you're doing. The camera made everything visible. Same thing in the twilight. In this next clip, you'll see students doing a rock drill preparing for a night ambush, and yet the camera, while it offsets the colors to slightly less than what you're normally used to seeing, it still makes everything clear and seeable.
Get on guard. Go! Advance! Advance! Advance!
One of the accessories offered for this camera is right here, and this is the weapons mount. It's $50 on the Sionyx website, and it screws into the camera, and the camera will mount on your weapon system. I'll freely admit that's not the main purpose of this video, and I have more testing to do with it. So far my tests have revealed that if I put it in front of the optic, it shifts the point of aim rather significantly. In my indoor test, of which you can see a video right here, the point of impact was shifted high and to the left by about a foot in each direction. Alright, this little clip right here shows part of the problem. The camera was mounted in front of the optical sight, so I was looking through the sight into the camera and onto the target, and this shows you the optical shift that occurred. Additionally, I've tried mounting this behind an optic, specifically a SIG Romeo 5, on a weapon in 7.62x39 style AR, and the recoil was too much for the camera. Every time I fired, the camera shut off, and I would literally have to disassemble it, take the battery pack out, and put it back in. So it's definitely recoil sensitive, although from what I can tell from my testing so far, 5.56 is not an issue for the camera. I am going to do more experiment with more optics and placement before the optic or after the optic, and see which is having the biggest impact. What I did know from my limited testing is that the impact shift is consistent regardless of where I'm putting the camera placement. I've seen several things marketing this and several YouTube videos of people saying they used it with their firearms and not encountering this, so maybe this is user error on my part or peculiar to the particular optics I'm testing the camera with. I have a wide range of optics I can use, so I'm going to do a rather extensive test and probably put a video out on that later when that testing is complete. One of the things you can see here in this clip, this is with the camera mounted behind the sight. You can see the dot, but it washes out, and against a light background, as such as the target I was shooting at, it can almost completely washed out regardless of the power setting I was at. When mounting this to the rifle, one of the features I do not like is when this is mounted, put that up nice and close so you can see the mount comes back here past the bottom of the camera. And you're like, okay, so it covers the base of the camera, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is this. To get to the batteries and the micro SD card, you have to take the eyepiece off by pulling down this latch right here. And the eyepiece comes off, and that gives you access to the SD card right here and the battery right here. When this is weapons mounted, that switch is blocked by the mount and you can't pull it down, so you can't pull the eyepiece off, so you can't get to your SD card, and you can't, micro SD card, and you can't get to your battery. To be fair to Sionyx, right here on the camera, you have this little hatch that opens up, and you have a USB cable port, and you can download all your video and recharge the camera through this port. The battery I have found that comes from Sionyx so far, as in use in continuous video mode, gets about 2 to 3 hours of constant run time out of it. The other nice thing about this is the batteries are rechargeable lithium batteries, and on Amazon I bought a 4-pack of replacement batteries made by a different company than Sionyx, and a charger for $20. Right now I'm going through tests of those batteries to see how long they last, just in a continual usage, not videoing, but in a like an observation mode, using the camera as a night observation device. I haven't completed that test, and I will cover that in a future video, but so far the initial results are they hold up as well as the OEM battery, and they're also rechargeable, and the recharger is a double battery recharger, so you get 4 batteries and you can recharge 2 at the same time. So that seems to give pretty good coverage. The charger works off a USB cable, so if you're in a remote environment, you can plug it into like a portable power source, anything that has a USB hookup basically, and recharge your batteries, which, like I said, we'll cover this more in a future video, but it's good to know that that's out there. One of the features of the Sionyx Aurora camera is it's a camera, so on the bottom of it, it has a standard tripod mount that you'd find on any video camera or digital SLR. So that's nice that it has an industry standard, so you can use it like a camera, which is its intended purpose. The other nice thing about that, that's also the same standard mounting for a J-arm. So yes, it is possible that you can mount this to a J-arm and wear it on your helmet like a night vision device. We'll go over that in a different video because it deserves its own video for going over the adaptations and the limitations that that mounting has for you, but yes, it can be done. More features of the Sionyx Aurora camera. Up here, this is your focusing ring, and it works like the focus on any normal camera. You twist it until you see the image crisp and clear. The next most important thing you have is this scene setting right here, and this is for what intended use you have of it. This setting right here, far to the left, that's the night setting. That's what you turn it to when you're using this outside at night. And by night, I mean if you think you need night vision, that's where that mode comes into play. The middle mode here is twilight. And that's when you use it in a mode where it's dark, regular cameras are not working. You put it in twilight mode, and as your light amount increases and or decreases depending on the time of day, that's where the setting that this comes into play and works the best. And finally, the final mode, which is day operation mode, and there it simply works like any digital camera. Next down on the camera is right here, and this is basically your control buttons for when you're using the menus through the viewfinder and you want to move the cursor around, up, down, right, left, and that's basically the set button to select what you want. This button here, the red button, you use that for snapping a still picture or turning your video off and or on. You'll also see the words GPS emblazoned. GPS is enabled on this device. I have yet to use it, so I'm not in a position to report on that yet because I don't really find it that important a feature. And I'll go over that more when we do our video on helmet mounting this device. Next we have the modes of the camera. Alright, and if we turn it to the first position, the 12 o'clock position is the off position. We go ahead and move to the 1 o'clock position. That is the still camera position. And if you want to take still pictures, this camera will do it. It's 720p, and you just hit the red button on top, and every time you do that, it will take a digital picture. The next mode, at the 2 o'clock position, is the video mode. To activate your video mode, you just hit the red button on the top of the camera, recording will start, and when you're done recording, hit the red button again. Third mode, at the 3 o'clock position, that is basically your constant video loop mode. How do you use that? Well, it's always filming when you turn it on. What it's designed for is if you have this weapons mounted and you fire a shot, it'll keep the 15 seconds before and the 15 seconds after the shot, and then discard everything else, and keep doing that while you're firing. The fourth position at the 4 o'clock position on the camera is your playback mode. You can look at that to see what you've already done, either still pictures or video. Just review what you've taken of to see if you got what you wanted, basically. And at the 5 o'clock position, we have the menu and Bluetooth mode, or Wi-Fi mode, excuse me. You can digitally connect this to a device such as your iPhone, iPad, Android, whatever, just using the Sionyx app. And basically it lets you see what the camera sees. This is an interesting function. The range is limited. It's not like you could use this in a tactical setting by sending the camera out to your LPOP and have somebody back at your patrol base watching and seeing what the LPOP sees. No, it doesn't have the range to do that. It'd be nice if it did, to be honest. But what it does allow you to do is set your camera up remotely. For example, if you were to put it on the top of your overhead cover of your fighting position and you're hunkered down inside and you want it to cover an angle you can't see so well when you're inside a bunker, it could do that. Or if you wanted it up close to see somebody's face as they were coming through the gap in your line to your patrol base or defensive line, yeah, it would probably work for that, for the person in the fighting position close to it. Now, one of the features I do not like about the Sionyx Aurora camera is microphone placement. So if I'm looking through the eyepiece, and the eyepiece is the only way that you can use this camera. There's no flip out screen like you have on many portable digital cameras. So when you're looking through the eye at what you want to film, right here is where the microphone is on this side, and the same on this side. This is where the microphone is, which you can see very close to the tip of my nose. So what the microphone picks up is your breathing, and it's so close to your nose that breathing is so amplified, it sounds like you smoke 3 packs a day. Whether you do or don't, that's what it sounds like. Sometimes it even picks it up to the point that it overrides what the person you're filming is saying, which is obviously not going to give you the greatest video in the world. Another thing I have found, that if you're doing something aggressive outside, like you're patrolling or following a patrol and filming them, and you're running and doing the assault, you're, oh God, I'm running, I'm breathing hard. Well, that just almost drowns everything out. So, like I said before, this is the first generation of this device, and I'm sure this will be an issue that gets addressed in future generations, or at least I hope it will be. And one of the things I haven't figured out how to capture on video is what you see when you look through the lens, as far as the symbology of the camera. But what you do see in there is power level, the amount of space left on your SD card. If you've enabled the GPS, you get coordinates and heading. So you do get some useful information there in a heads-up display. You'll notice earlier in the video I mentioned that, hey, the GPS there, but I'm not really using it because I don't consider it an important feature. And part of the reason is if I was using this mounted to my helmet, that you would think that's good information, but it mounts at a weird angle, so you don't get to see the symbology all that well. So that being the case, I'm not putting a high priority on it. I will test it, and I will cover that when we go all into a video about mounting this to a helmet and using it in a nighttime environment. The Sionyx Aurora camera is a new and burgeoning technology. It's clearly the generation 1 of digital night vision, but at the rate digital things technologically advance, I foresee this surpassing generation 3 conventional night vision in a fairly short order. The nice thing about it is the price point. Like I said, I purchased this camera for $800. Is pretty reasonable. Rechargeable batteries, I got a 4-pack and a charger for $20, also very reasonable. I have more testing to do on this over long periods of time, but so far the uses I have found for it have been worthwhile. It's good for documenting things that your unit or your training or whatever that you're doing that happens at night, it seems to fill that function pretty good. It's primarily a camera, so it primarily functions best as a camera so far. Adapting it to be pseudo night vision is not a perfect thing. It can function in that role, but if you need serious night vision and you have the funds, you should probably at this time consider looking at more conventional Generation 2 or Generation 3 night vision. We'd like to thank you for tuning into this edition of Pegasus Test. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and tune in for more testing of night observation devices.